We've all heard the promise, right? Self-driving cars were going to be the future of safety, the thing that would finally get rid of human error on our roads. But what happens when the technology itself is the point of failure? This is the story of the very first time a fully autonomous car killed a pedestrian, and what it tells us about the real limits of AI out on the street.
So let's talk about its specific date, March 18th, 2018. You really need to remember this one because it marks a tragic, and I mean tragic, turning point for the whole idea of autonomous vehicles. It was a single event that basically slammed the brakes on a multi-billion-dollar race to the future.
To really understand the impact this had, we've got to go back to that night in Tempe, Arizona, and take a hard look at exactly what happened. The victim's name was Elaine Hertzberg. She was 49 years old. It was late, around 10 o'clock at night, and she was doing something incredibly normal, just walking her bicycle across the street. These are the simple, heartbreaking facts of what happened.
And the vehicle that hit her? It was a specially outfitted Volvo SUV, part of Uber's big self-driving test program. And importantly, it was operating in full autonomous mode. So yeah, there was a human safety driver behind the wheel, but the car was supposed to be doing all the work.
Now, you might be thinking, was the car speeding? Well, no, it was traveling at 40 miles per hour, and the posted speed limit was actually 45. So right off the bat, this tells us speed wasn't the real issue here. The issue was seeing what was right in front of it.
As investigators started piecing everything together, it became painfully clear that this wasn't just one failure. Nope, this was a catastrophic, perfect storm, a complete breakdown of both the human backup plan and the autonomous technology itself.
Think about it. On one side, you have the human safety driver. Their entire job is to be the ultimate failsafe. And on the other, you've got this multi-million-dollar autonomous system, which was designed from the ground up to prevent exactly these kinds of accidents. And on this one night, they both failed.
Okay, so let's start with the human part of the equation. The safety driver, Rafael Vasquez, was supposed to be alert, ready to grab the wheel in a split second. But the footage from the in-car camera, well, it was damning. It showed Vasquez repeatedly looking down, away from the road, right in the moments before the crash. His hands weren't even near the steering wheel, which is a huge no-no. The human backup just wasn't there. But here's the part that is, arguably even more shocking. The car's super advanced sensory system should have seen her. It was packed with tech like LiDAR, which is amazing in the dark. It should have been able to spot a person with a bike from hundreds of feet away, giving it plenty of time to stop. But it didn't. The system was basically blind at the one moment it needed to see.
So, why? Why did this amazing technology fail so badly? Well, to understand that, we need to do a quick dive into how these cars are supposed to work in the first place. Like, how does a self-driving car actually see the world?
It's a great question. And the answer isn't one single piece of tech, but a whole suite of sensors that are all supposed to work together in harmony. But there's one that really plays the starring role.
And that star player is called LiDAR. It stands for light detection and ranging. The easiest way to think about it is like radar, but with lasers. You have this unit on top of the car that's constantly spinning, shooting out millions of laser beams a second. Those beams bounce off of everything, cars, trees, people, creating this incredibly detailed real-time 3D map of the world. This is the technology that's supposed to be foolproof, especially at night.
So here's how this sensory symphony is supposed to work. First, LiDAR and radar are constantly scanning the environment, measuring the distance to everything. At the exact same time, cameras are doing what cameras do, seeing things like traffic lights and lane markings. All of that data, and we're talking a torrent of data, floods into a powerful main computer. That computer analyzes everything, identifies potential problems, and then finally, it tells the car what to do: steer, brake, or accelerate.
And this brings us to the most crucial step of all, classification. The computer doesn't just see a blob. It has to identify what that blob is. It draws a little virtual box around it and slaps a label on it, like a yellow box for a person or a pink one for another car. This is so important because it allows the car to predict what that object might do next. But in Tempe, this is exactly where the system fell apart. It saw an object, but it couldn't figure out what it was. It kept changing its mind, classifying Hertzberg as an unknown object, then a vehicle, then a bicycle, losing critical seconds with every change. The whole process just failed.
So as you can imagine, this crash wasn't just a technical failure. It sent absolute shockwaves through the entire autonomous vehicle industry. It was a very public and very painful reckoning. I mean, just look at this timeline. Uber's program was growing at an incredible pace, launching in 2016 and expanding to multiple cities. They were a leader in this space. But then, March 2018 happens, and everything comes to a screeching halt. Uber immediately suspended its entire public testing program across all of North America.
The corporate response, of course, was swift. An Uber spokesman called the video disturbing and heartbreaking, and the company said it was cooperating fully with authorities. But let's be real, the damage to public trust was immense.
Ultimately, this whole tragic incident served as a brutal reality check. For all the hype, for all the promises from Silicon Valley, it was a reminder that this technology was not a finished product. It was, and in many ways it still is, an experiment being conducted on public roads.
And that leaves us with the biggest question of all, one that lawyers and engineers and governments are still wrestling with. The entire point of this tech is to be safer than a human driver. But when the human and the machine both fail at the exact same time, who or what is really at fault?